Is the U.S. fading? The United States has stood as the beacon of innovation, progress, and unparalleled power for much of modern history. It has dominated the global stage for decades, shaping economics, culture, and geopolitics unlike any other. However, in recent years, a challenging question has emerged. Is the U.S. fading as a global superpower? Is America following the trajectory of great civilizations before it, empires that once thrived but eventually fell into decline? Or is this perception of fading simply a momentary lull in its ongoing journey? Through the lens of history and today's pressing realities, this video unpacks the signs of decline, explores parallels to past empires, and analyzes America's potential for renewal. Let us examine whether this truly represents the twilight of a superpower or the beginning of an evolution into something new. Before diving into the details, we must start by asking, what exactly does it mean for a nation to fade? On the surface, it suggests loss, declining influence, waning power, and diminishing legacy. For a global superpower like the U.S., fading could mean no longer leading the world in military dominance, economic might, or cultural influence. It could point to an inability to respond effectively to domestic and global challenges. But fading is not always a linear decline. History shows us that empires have moments of crisis but also renewal. So, is America merely in a slump to be reversed, or are we witnessing a more significant, potentially irreversible shift? This distinction is critical, and as we continue, we will unpack both sides of the argument, those who see the fall and those who see hope. To understand the perception of fading, let us explore the commonly cited arguments for America's decline. Economic challenges. The U.S. economy, although still the largest in the world, is showing signs of strain. Public debt has skyrocketed to unsustainable levels, creating vulnerabilities. Wage growth has failed to match the rising cost of living, and income inequality has surged to historic highs, with power concentrated in the hands of a shrinking elite. At the same time, global competitors like China are rapidly closing the gap in terms of economic output. Political polarization. Domestically, the nation feels divided against itself. Political polarization has reached an extreme, with partisanship impairing decision-making at the highest levels. This deepening divide weakens America's ability to address problems cohesively, whether it's healthcare reform, climate change, or education investment. Global competition. On a global front, American dominance is being challenged like never before. China, with its Belt and Road Initiative and expanded military reach, is asserting itself as a counterbalance to U.S. influence. Russia, though far less powerful economically, demonstrates its ability to disrupt global order. The perception that the U.S. may no longer outpace these rivals unquestioningly is contributing to doubts about its continued dominance. Social trust and inequality. Moreover, societal cohesion within the U.S. appears to be eroding. Trust in government and institutions is at an all-time low. Social issues, such as systemic racism, gun violence, and healthcare disparities, have drawn sharp criticism both at home and abroad. In the eyes of some, these unresolved issues signal an unraveling of the American dream. Environmental challenges. Lastly, the global fight against climate change is exposing America's tardiness in leading the world's sustainability movement. While many nations have committed to ambitious goals, the U.S. has been criticized for inconsistent policies and resistance to transformative environmental leadership. These signs collectively paint a picture of a nation struggling to maintain its footing. But is this truly an irreversible path? If we look toward history, the question becomes, what happens to great empires when they lose their way? The Roman Empire, an icon of ancient dominance, faced political corruption, economic difficulties, and overexpansion before its eventual fall. The British Empire, for centuries the world's dominant power, unraveled as its economy suffered the toll of 2 world wars and its colonial ambitions faced resistance. There are lessons from these empires that resonate in America's challenges today. Political polarization, economic challenges, overreach, and even social inequality are patterns we've seen before. However, the U.S. is not Rome or Britain. It has unique advantages: geography, innovation, and the benefit of learning from history itself. What separates the U.S. potentially is its willingness to reinvent itself. Despite the fears of decline, there's a strong argument to be made that the U.S. is far from written off. Many of the criticisms leveled against the country reflect not an inability to adapt, but rather the growing pains of a dynamic society. Innovation and creativity. America's unparalleled track record of innovation gives it a distinct advantage. From Silicon Valley's technological advances to breakthroughs in medicine and renewable energy, the U.S. remains at the forefront of global progress. This innovation, when harnessed effectively, can generate not only economic wealth, but also social and environmental solutions. Cultural dynamism. Culturally, the U.S. continues to lead the world in shaping ideas, behavior, and expression. American films, music, and digital media permeate global consciousness, providing a soft power that no rival nation currently matches. Even as new powers rise, America's cultural influence remains nostalgic and aspirational for many. Institutional strengths. Another defining characteristic of America is the resilience of its institutions. Unlike historical empires that succumb to disarray, the U.S. has shown the ability to navigate crises through its democratic frameworks, judicial systems, and grassroots activism. Diversity as a strength. The U.S. is also home to a level of cultural and ethnic diversity that few nations can match. As challenges evolve, the nation is uniquely positioned to draw on this diversity for new ideas, talents, and solutions, a wellspring of strength the country has just begun to fully harness. It's also worth questioning the entire premise of a fading superpower. Perhaps the real issue isn't that the U.S. is declining, but that global power structures are evolving. We live in an increasingly multipolar world where influence is no longer concentrated solely in one nation. China is rising, yes, but so are India, the European Union, and other emerging regions. The concept of global leadership is diversifying, and the U.S. may simply need to embrace a role as part of a global, collaborative leadership structure rather than monopolizing influence. Furthermore, while competitors like China may gain ground economically, America maintains a clear edge in soft power. It is still the nation where millions aspire to study, work, and settle. This cultural magnetism cannot be overlooked. As we confront the challenges facing the U.S. today, we must ask, what can America learn from history's fallen empires? The most important lesson may be the necessity of adaptation. Rome failed because it resisted necessary reforms. Britain transitioned by relinquishing imperial ambition, but maintaining global relevance. America must recognize when to change course, not out of desperation, but from a position of self-awareness and strength. History also teaches us that reinvention is not only possible, but often necessary for survival. This means tackling enduring issues like climate change, wealth inequality, and political gridlock with bold but deliberate action. An adaptable America may not dominate in every traditional metric of power, but can redefine what leadership looks like. As we look to the future, it's worth considering three possible scenarios. Scenario 1, continued relative decline. Under this scenario, political gridlock and poor policy decisions see other nations catching up, leaving the U.S. merely one power among many. Scenario 2, embracing multipolarity. Here, the U.S. steps back from unilateral dominance to embrace global collaboration, positioning itself as the hub in a network of equal powers. Scenario 3, complete reinvention. In this scenario, the U.S. reinvents itself, doubling down on innovation, collaboration, and domestic reform. From tackling climate change to economic resurgence, the nation paves the way for a new kind of superpower, one rooted in shared prosperity, resilience, and adaptability. As with any great story in history, America's journey is far from simple. Every sign of decline is also an opportunity for resurgence. The triumph of the American ideal has always been its ability to push boundaries, challenge norms, and emerge stronger from adversity. So, is America fading? That depends on how we define fading and how the nation chooses to respond to its challenges. History has shown us that empires fall due to arrogance and stagnation, but they endure when they acknowledge their faults and adapt to a changing world. The U.S. has a critical choice to make. By reflecting on its past and embracing the demands of the future, it could remain a global leader, not fading but transforming. The final chapter is yet to be written, and it is up to the American people to determine how it unfolds. What do you think? Is the U.S. on a decline, or are we witnessing the dawn of something new? Let us know in the comments below as the conversation continues.